This morning, I woke up to this. It's not usual that when I'm away from the office that I would get Slack messages, but a teammate left me this as a wonderful surprise for me this morning. Do you know what this is? Because if you do, please tell me. I don't know what this is. Is this sessions on a website? Is this the number of users that we're collecting? Is this revenue? I have no idea what this is. I don't know if it's good or bad, but somehow it made its way to our team's Slack channel. And that's a problem, because one little mistake of leaving out some labels for a graph is creating a lot of confusion for me and my team now. So today I'm here to tell you about the tale of the mysterious graph of data. And like all good tales, some things are true and some things are not. Some things will be familiar to you and some things will be brand new. But through this journey, I'm hoping that you can learn some valuable lessons, as I have. Hi, I'm Rob. I work at Spotify. I'm a design lead there in their Stockholm office. And you might be familiar with Spotify. I think there's a few users in here already. We have a lot of different apps on all the platforms, including many car brands, hundreds of speakers, and even various wearables and different technology that's coming out brand new today. The crazy thing about Spotify is that we're in 61 countries in the world. We have over 140 million users, 60 million subscribers. To give you some perspective, that's the collective population of Argentina, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. I thought I'd try to contextualize it for you here today. And with all of this data that the users are generating, and we have a lot of data, we're able to create really interesting features for you, such as the Discover Weekly, the daily mixes, your time capsule. I've heard many of you are using these features and really enjoying them. This is why this data is so valuable to us. We're able to create this value for our consumers, for our customers, for all of you using our service out there today. But none of this is helping me try to understand where this graph came from. It's only making it more complex. We have over 2 billion playlists. Is this somehow related to a playlist? We have over 30 million songs. Along with all of these users, all of the subscribers, all of the different markets, this is a lot of very complex data that we try to collect and try to find value in. So let's come back to this. I still don't know what this means. And everything so far has only made this more difficult. And I really don't know where to start looking. But let's start with my team. We, of course, follow the Spotify squad model, like some of you here today. And hopefully, if I can look at what our squad is doing, can I somehow learn something that might be related to this graph? Potentially, my squad can help me try to understand this. I think you're probably already familiar with this video that's available on YouTube, explaining the squad model and explaining how we organize within the company. It's really incredible because it puts a small group of people together in very diverse roles with the sole mission and focus of a single mission. We have a product manager, designers, data scientists, data engineers, developers, testers. We try to create this diverse team so that together we can focus on the mission, focus on a feature that we're working on together. There's a certain amount of autonomy that we have within the squad, but we have to understand that we're part of a larger network. We're part of the larger company itself that has to work together towards this single product that we're offering. And with the squad, I know that the graph probably isn't related to anything produced by our squad, because once we produce code and write it, we have to test it, write all the test code for it. So once it's out there and producing data, I can feel fairly confident that it is passing all of these tests. If not, it wouldn't even find its way into some kind of beta test or the employee build of our app. So let's back up to maybe it's something related to me on the squad. Is it somehow related to the user experience? We all have a process. We follow this design process. We talk with stakeholders. We sketch. We brainstorm. We produce a lot of Post-its. And this process is to help understand what's going on in the spectrum of our users, but also to try to manage the complexity that is inherent in this process. And one way that I handle this complexity, if you're curious what my desk looks like, one way that I handle this complexity is through abstraction. If you are able to take apart the individual pieces of something really complex and understand all of those little pieces and understand the relationship between those pieces, it can give you this insight into this larger complex model that you'd be dealing with. Abstraction is very key to my process, but chances are that you're already using abstraction in your own process every day. User testing is a very good example of abstraction. We don't test all 140 million users. We test maybe 6 to 10 and use what we've learned from them and use those insights to abstract it into the larger whole of 140 million. Personas are another really good example of using abstraction. We don't design for all 140 million. We use personas to be able to take the characteristics and behaviors that are important to certain kinds of users and customers that we have and focus on those few. Here's a couple of our new personas that we're now using. This still doesn't help me understand this graph, though. It's only making it much more complex. And I now have to worry about things produced by the squad. I now have to worry about the abstraction techniques that I'm following in our process, all of the individual pieces of the process. It's not really making any sense to understand this piece of it. But there are key pieces in our squad area that might help. So here I'm going to ask the team, I'm going to ask Anna on the team, does it match anything on our TV? In our squad areas and throughout the entire company, you're going to see large, if you ever want a tour, let me know. You're going to see large TVs all over the place with a lot of dashboards and metrics. And what these dashboards do is they keep all of the important data related to our squad, related to our team, in focus and in front of us all the time. We should be able to see something like this spike happen because the dashboard would be illustrating that to us. It allows us to keep this awareness in our squad all the time when we're working on different pieces of our feature. So does it match anything on the TV? No. That's terrible because it would make sense that this would match something on our TV. So at this point, I know that it's not related to the squad. It's not related to my process. It's not related to any of the metrics that we're already following within our team. So I'm going to have to back up into something even larger, into the customer experience. In this context, the customer experience to me is every single touch point when it comes to Spotify. Whether you're in marketing, whether you're in the desktop team, whether you're working on an automotive platform or any other touch point within the ecosystem of Spotify, you are contributing to this customer experience. And that's great because I need help. I can't do it by myself. The designers within Spotify can't do it with ourselves. So it's great that the entire company, in all of the different teams and departments, are contributing to this larger customer experience. The unfortunate piece of this is that only makes understanding the graph that much more difficult. Because now it's not just the development teams or the other feature teams that I have to consider impacting our team and our graph of data, but it's every other single team in the company as well. Could some other person's touch point be affecting our touch point? Could somebody else's feature be affecting our feature in ways that neither team would have understood if you were to say making this change would affect this other team? So we're all responsible for the customer's experience, but you have to remember that you won't always know or be aware of all the other pieces of it. One of the amazing points of, one of the most amazing experiences of being a designer is seeing your work out in the wild. Once in a while, I'll see my Spotify fellow colleagues posting on Facebook of something they've released. It's a super exciting moment because you can spend months and months working on something, but once it finds its way into the real world is when you can really start to see the value of the feature that you've created. You can also see maybe some of the feedback that you might receive as well. People might like it, they might love it, they might not like it at all. And one of the pieces about abstraction is that all of the process to this point in my design toolbox has been abstracted. But once it's released to the real world, it's no longer abstract. It's all reality. So no matter what I've created as an affordance for touching a button or swiping on that playlist, in reality, it might not have come across the same way as I intended. My favorite example of this is the iPhone 4. If anybody remembers AntennaGate, what ended up happening is Apple was really creative and really innovative with how they integrated the antennas into the phone. They were putting the antenna around the outer edge. It was brilliant. Like, why hide it inside the phone when you can keep it outside, have better reception, get better signal for your phone? What they failed to understand, though, is that nobody holds their phone this way. There's a little tiny piece of metal missing, but if you put your finger there and connect the two pieces of metal, the reception dropped. And it was a big downfall of the phone that they kind of corrected through software, and they were being able to make some adjustments. But somebody was daring enough to email Steve Jobs about this and say, hey, why did you do this? If I hold it wrong, I'm not going to get reception on my phone. And Steve's famous response was, don't hold it that way then. So up until the point of release, everything was abstracted. The engineers in the lab could be holding it a very specific way and get amazing signal. But once the abstraction has left and it's gone into the real world and reality, as much as they tried to create this beautiful experience, it fell flat. So as a designer, you're creating these affordances to create this experience. But the customer experience as a whole is the reality of those affordances. It doesn't matter what your intent is or what your intent was when you were designing. Once it goes into the real world, abstraction is gone, and you only have the reality of whether or not it works or doesn't. So looking at this graph again, it's not anything related to the process, the team. Is it somehow related to the customer's experience as a whole in the entire company? I don't know why it would make its way into our Slack channel, but could this somehow be related to revenue or monthly active users or subscribers as a whole? Luckily, inside the company, when we're using so much data and we're gaining so much value from this data, it can be really easy to lose track of where this data is coming from or see a random graph such as this somewhere and not really know whether or not to trust it. So internally, we have a single source of truth for our metrics. We have a single website in our intranet that carries all of our official metrics. It carries all of the secondary metrics that we're also following. You're able to, as an employee, log in, change different parameters of it, and see how things are shifting. This is our single source of truth when it comes to our data. And it's amazing because you can be in meetings and somebody can say, well, 12% of our users are doing this when you present this to them. And you can go to that single source of truth and find the answer, or you can realize that maybe somebody was manipulating the data a little bit and wanted to convince you of something. Either way, we have this amazing single site to help us through this process. So let's ask Anna if it's something related to the company metrics. Nope. Okay, so this is starting to get really frustrating. I'm going through all of the steps forward and backward on whether or not it's related to my process, my team, the company itself, something related to our features, and I'm not getting anywhere. In Agile, we of course follow the Agile process in many ways. We're focused on that single mission. We're focused on iterating quickly. We have MVPs. We have user testing in every single piece of the design process. But it can be really frustrating when you put all of those things together and you really don't know what might happen in the result. So at this point, let's maybe look at the organization. I never thought an org chart might help me in deciding or discovering what might be the problem in this mysterious graph. But let's take a look at the org chart. It's very generic, I'm sorry. Here's my team over here. We have a lot of other teams that we work with and collaborate with on a regular basis. But in a large company, there's definitely other teams that we don't know about that might be related to our feature or might be getting a result of my feature on the squad. But then there's this little mystery here, customer support. I'm not exactly sure what they do in the company. I mean, I understand that they're going to help customers. If something comes up, somebody has trouble using one of our apps, has trouble installing something, I'm sure they help them. But would they have data? Would they somehow be providing data to my team and I don't even know it? Would our feature somehow be providing them data and we don't even know it? I don't know the answer, so I'm going to go into their Slack channel, post this, and ask them, hey, do you know where this is from? Because we're totally confused and don't know where to start looking. To my surprise, they absolutely know what this is. It's your graph, but it's our data, which is really strange. Like, how can you have that separation? If it's their data, why don't they tell us what this is about? Why don't they enlighten us to understanding this mysterious graph? Well, the reality is that customer support, customer service has a lot of data. But the surprise is that it's a little bit different than what you might be expecting. And also, what they're considering data and what you are considering data are probably not aligning in the same way. They would be surprised on the data that you would want. So as an example, think of the last time that you might have been frustrated with a product or service. I'm, of course, going to use Spotify in this example. So I'm getting the screen. I don't know what it means. I'm definitely connected to data, but for some reason it's not showing this view in the app. I really don't know where to begin. So I'm going to look online, try to Google for an answer, search for something to help me fix this. But I'm not finding what I'm looking for, and I'm not finding anything that fixes it. So I'm going to go to their website. A lot of companies have support sites that you can search for information that you can fix a problem on your own. So I go there, I can't find a solution, and I try to go to the contact form. Here, Spotify has a contact form. You can answer a couple questions and then get in contact with some kind of agent to help you out. In this case, I got connected with a chat window with an agent on the other end trying to help me out. And through some short dialogue, we were able to figure out exactly what was happening. It was completely my fault, of course. I set something that I didn't realize that I set, but they helped me fix it. They helped me get it back to the beautiful state of using Spotify again. But what's surprising is that this is all producing a lot of data for customer support. In this first step here, when I had a problem with Spotify, I could, or if I had this challenging state in the app, I could try to fix it on my own. But at a certain point, I might be frustrated or I might not want to fix it on my own, and I'm going to take that extra step forward to contact Spotify. This is referred to as the contact rate. The number of people that are coming to you for help and then actually taking the next step and contacting an agent is that contact rate itself. And we have multiple channels. We have a website that has a lot of different help that you can try to solve the problem yourself. But we also have support through email and chat, Twitter, and Facebook. You can look at the Spotify Cares Twitter account, and you can see how they're helping customers on a daily basis. When I finally get to some kind of conversation with an agent, it's because they have a certain amount of agents available in certain languages. There's a number of languages that we support around the world because, of course, with 61 countries, there are quite a few languages out there. And we have a very certain amount of agents that we can fluctuate over time based on demand, but it does take a lot of time to hire agents, to train them, and to get them aware of how we handle the customer support process within Spotify. So it's not something that we can just ramp up extra people at any moment. And the amount of time it takes to help a customer is referred to as the average handle time. This is really important because we, of course, don't want, or the agent, of course, does not want to waste your time. It wants to fix your problem as fast as possible. But also on the operational side, we want the agent to be helping more people. And we don't want people waiting in queues for a long time. This is referred to as the average handle time. And at the end of the entire experience, many times we send out a survey and an email. Many times these get deleted. But if you do get one, please fill it out, because it helps determine the customer satisfaction of our customer support organization. This score is based out of 100. It can be, I can't tell you what ours is, but it can be a very important number to understand how well your customer support agents are helping customers and how happy those customers are at the end of it. Sometimes this is called the CSAT score. So all of this together is producing a lot of data, but it's being focused on the operational side of customer support. But that's only the beginning of where you can start to get that value. So at this point, if we come back to this graph, do you have an idea of what this graph might be referring to? You can see in the beginning that it was fairly stable. And the feature that we were working on in the team may have had some challenges, but it was fairly low and fairly stable. But then towards the end here, we released an update of this feature. And without realizing it, it was slowly starting to build until it totally peaked at the end. And these are the number of contacts that customers are giving our customer support organization in voicing their frustration and trying to get a fix or trying to just understand what this update in the feature is doing, because maybe it doesn't align with exactly what they're thinking it should be doing. So this is a metric that may be new to a team, but it's just as valuable as knowing how many times somebody tapped on a button, how many times people even used your feature or went to a part of the app or subscribed or started paying for a subscription or became a new user of the service. This is just as important to us as a feature team that is focused on a single mission and may not always be able to touch all of the different touch points of the entire service that Spotify offers. Luckily for us, even with this mysterious graph, we have an amazing group of customer support agents that you might have heard about. There are different articles that have been written about it because they really are. Our customer support agents are really special. And when I work with them, it makes me realize how amazing they are. Because they love helping people. They love Spotify, and they're able to combine that into their dream job. And on occasion, offer a little fun at the same time for our customers. Unfortunately, Chewbacca had a little bit of a hard time getting Spotify connected to the Millennium Falcon. So our agent was luckily fluent in Wookiee and was able to help him out. And they many times will create these story playlists where they're able to combine songs and tell a story through all of it. If you Google it, you can find a lot of examples. It's really cute and amazing at the same time. But there's a certain disconnect with how my perception of customer support has been up until this point. Our team is focused on delivering. We have design process. We have the agile process. We are focused on this mission. We have MVPs that we can get out just enough to start to show some value and then just fix things as we go. But I'm not sure that's the kind of relationship I want to have with customer support. Imagine that there is this amazing parade going down the street. Maybe it's Carnival. And everybody is celebrating, singing, dancing in the street. There's streamers, confetti's everywhere. It's an amazing celebration. And then at the end of the parade, there's these two guys cleaning up. In some respect, this is customer support. The team is focused on delivering, we're producing this feature, we're contributing to the customer's experience, and customer support is there at the end just to clean up our mess. But this is not the relationship that I want with customer support. This is not allowing me to gain the full value of what our customer support agents can provide us. And of course, it's not taking advantage of the huge amount of data that they're producing. Instead, why can't customer support be viewed as a fortune teller? Because you could see, if you remember in the graph, it didn't just spike all of a sudden. It kind of gradually rose. We don't release features to the entire world all at the same time. And you could start to see an uptick very slowly as more markets were added, more users started using something, and then all of a sudden it just was a huge spike. The fortune teller in customer support would have been able to tell us this before it spiked. Or what about customer support as the canary in the coal mine? This is an expression from many, many decades ago when miners would be going deep into the earth mining for coal. There wasn't as much technology as there is today, and the process of mining it would produce all of these dangerous gases and a very tragic experience for these miners. But a canary is more sensitive to these dangerous gases than humans. So as the miners are working, if they were to look over and see the canary fall off the stoop, fall dead, they knew that there was a problem down there and they needed to exit immediately. This canary was their early warning system when there was no technology to support something like this. Can customer support be your early warning system? Can it start to show you trends in behavior or trends in potential problems and challenges with your feature before it becomes a widespread issue for all of the 140 million users? So what can you do? There are 3 areas that I've been able to put together as options for you to start to target using customer support as a way of gaining this data, gaining this knowledge to support your feature team, to support your initiatives within the company. Ideally, I would want you to be able to avoid this situation of this mysterious graph and even just be able to gain some more value from what customer support can give you. So the first area, technical. Technically speaking, I'm the worst person to be talking about the technical aspects. I'm very fortunate that within Spotify we have data scientists, we have data engineers, we have PhDs, we have a lot of really amazing people that are able to create the infrastructure that I need to be able to do my own queries and be able to gain this knowledge. But that doesn't mean if you don't have those people that you shouldn't do anything. Low fidelity is still better than no fidelity. At least in the beginning, if you don't have a data engineer to create this data pipeline for you to be using, start doing it manually. If you can start to use a spreadsheet, and it might be a little extra work at first, it might be time consuming, but these small initiatives will start to show the value right away and potentially could give you enough ammunition to justify hiring a data engineer. It could justify it much more easier than just saying, hey, I need this data engineer because I need to look at the data. And somebody could easily say, well, I'm sorry. At least these small initiatives would give you the reasoning and the justification to get that person eventually. And take it slow, because these small things will start to add up and create momentum over time. And with that, you'll start to get more and more people to support this, and even to support the idea that customer support can provide all of this value for you. Process. We all have a process. We all have a design process. We have tools. We have different activities and techniques that we're following. We're using all of this to try to ensure the success of our team and the success of our features, the success of the user experience that we're trying to create. But you have to understand right away that your customer support agents know more about your users than you do. If you're using user testing to try to gain these insights on how customers might be using your feature, how they might in the future, 6 to 10 users in a couple days of user testing is nothing compared to the 50 to 100 customers that your agents would be talking with every week. If you understand that they are your domain experts, you can start to understand how you can use them better in your process. And right away, just start to include them in your process. As a domain expert, they could be used in your brainstorms. You could bring them into ideation sessions, any kind of design sprints that you might be having, and even at the tail end of the process in the feedback. Show them the designs that you want to do. Get their feedback on them. It's amazing if you're designing one feature used by millions of people, they've talked to more people than you have, and they probably have heard more complaints than you have about that single feature. And they're able to abstract that over weeks and weeks that they're working and receiving all of these calls. They're able to abstract and create different insights and themes without having to do user testing to understand it. It's not to say that you shouldn't do user testing, but these customer support agents can add another layer of understanding for that experience. When you have customer support answering these calls from customers, you can think of them as the front line of your designs. There's no abstraction when a customer calls an agent and complains to them and wants something fixed and is not happy about it. There's no abstraction anymore. It's only reality. This is the front line of how your designs are being reacted to by the customers. They're going to know about something before you do. They might know something before you even see a little tick in your graph if you have some kind of dashboard set up. If you're using the HEART framework, we're using this framework. It's made by Google. It's been incredibly valuable to us internally within our feature teams. But why can't it be the HEARTS framework? Why can't you add support as that extra layer to use the metrics that support can give you and use the insights and findings that they're able to tell you about and use that as contributing to the happiness, the engagement, the retention, as a complete picture of how your feature is being handled in the wild. Including the support is another step that you can take to make sure that inside the entire company, there's a commitment to using this data that customer support can give you. Culture. Now, culture is definitely probably the hardest aspect to change. As a company grows, as a company becomes established, if you're working in a startup, if you're working in a larger enterprise that has been around for many, many years, it takes a lot of time to adjust and make corrections to this culture. One thing that Zappos did, if you're not familiar, Zappos is an online retailer. They sell shoes. And they're known to have some of the best customer service in the industry. But it wasn't always that way. In the beginning, Zappos struggled to just exist as a company. The CEO ended up putting a lot of his own money into it to save the company. And it was at this point that the CEO decided customer service could be this thing that saves the company. It could be the single item that makes us a success. They've since been, this is the CEO's book on the right, they've since been acquired by Amazon. They have over $1 billion in revenue every year. It's a pretty amazing story. And if you Google just customer service stories from Zappos online, you can find all of these amazing examples of them hand delivering shoes for a wedding, or giving them free shipping, or going to a store to buy the shoe and send it to them. I mean, it's an amazing story of how far you could go with customer service. In this context, they made the decision that customer service was going to be key to their business. When you start working at Zappos, everybody goes through customer support training. And it isn't until you go through the couple weeks of training that they offer you your official job, and you would start within that position. If you're a designer, if you're an engineer, it doesn't matter. Everybody goes through customer support training. And in the holiday season, when their volume goes up, they're able to pull engineers or designers or anybody in the company to start handling more calls. And I think it's even that the CEO every year for a couple days takes calls and emails from customers, just so that he can keep that relevance to what has made them successful. One thing that you can do is be an agent yourself. Go through the training. If you're working within a company that has official training and agents working within customer support, do this yourself. It's amazing that you'd be able to see exactly what an agent goes through on a daily basis. And it would also help you understand your customers a lot more. In Spotify, I'm working on different systems that our agents use. So it's the internal systems where they could find information on a customer, internal systems where they can make corrections to something that might not be aligned correctly. This training has helped me understand what they go through on a daily basis. Every day, they take contacts, emails, chats from really unhappy people, and through the process, they hopefully make them a happy Spotify customer at the end. And seeing this daily, over and over again, is enlightening to know what is really important to your customers. Because you might be working on a small little feature that is incredibly important to you and your team, but once you start to talk to customers and realize that it really doesn't matter if it's blue, if it's pink, if it's on the right or the left, if you swipe, if you tap twice, it really doesn't matter, potentially. But you would start to understand what really does matter to your customers. Every summer in Spotify, we pull in the top 20 advisors, top 20 agents from around the world to Stockholm for a week of thanking them for the hard work that they do every year. And the minute they step off the plane, we treat them like rock stars. We, in fact, call this week the Rockstar Jam, because to us, these customer service agents are our rock stars. They're the ones talking to annoyed and frustrated and angry customers every day, and able to turn that emotion around into something happy and hopefully delightful for them. So in this week, we have sessions where anybody in the company can shadow an agent. They can see them taking emails and taking chats. We have them talking directly with the different feature teams around the company. I took them around the building this last August, and I would introduce them to the desktop team, or I would introduce them to the team that's working on the search. And it was amazing how it would immediately trigger, oh yes, this customer has been asking me many times, or I've gotten a lot of different customer contacts about this part of search, or this part of the desktop app. And they're able to directly give that feedback to them. It's amazing to see, because these are 20 people from around the world, and bringing them into the office, these teams react like, I have no idea who you are, but you are providing me incredible value and feedback so quickly. Like, why aren't we doing more of this? It's going to be incredibly powerful to be able to see that kind of reaction with your teams. So now I'm going to leave you with the most important decision that you're going to have to make now. If you're working within an organization with a customer support team, if you are able to make this kind of connection in your startup, in your company, if you're at an agency, if you can provide this enlightenment to your clients, the decision you have to make is, do you want your customer support to be these two guys at the end of the parade? Do you want them to just be the cleanup crew that is just fixing the mistakes through all the processes? Or do you want them to be the fortune teller, where they can predict what might go wrong and help you before it's too late, and try to give you the value you need earlier in the process and give them a voice back into your design process so they can create a better experience for the entire customer's journey through your product? Thank you.
So we already do that with our customer service, so I wanted to ask you about the process. How do you guys at Spotify combine quality and speed of shipping? And by quality, I mean the the value we deliver to our end users.
Just repeat the last part. The quality is being what? The value?
Yeah, by quality, I mean the value that we deliver to our end users.
Okay. It's a good question. Speed is always a driver because the world is competitive. There are other services. We want to be the best service we possibly can. The quality versus speed, it's always going to be some kind of balance between them. Sometimes you do have to make trade-offs, but it's a matter of balancing them. That's about all I can say.
Okay, thank you.
Hola Rob, muchas gracias por tu charla. Quería consultarte qué estrategias usaron para que los datos que genera atención al cliente resulten interesantes para otras áreas o mismo para el propio sector, ¿no? de UX.
How do I make sure that the data collected is valuable for more than just the UX? Strategies.
No, el resto de la empresa, digamos, para que resulte interesante esos datos, esos gráficos, poder estar al tanto del día a día, de lo que las personas dicen, qué problemas relatan cuando llaman al servicio.
I was lucky enough in my previous team that I had a very talented data scientist. And as a designer, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know every single interaction that was going to be happening inside my tiny little feature. And he was really good at making sure that I knew what kind of value it would bring before they actually did it, because collecting data is consuming in resources and time. So the HEART framework is definitely one of the bigger strategies that we use to make sure that we're collecting things that are connected to some kind of goal. And it helps define exactly what's relevant to be collected. Because it might be interesting to me to know how many times something is being used. It's a little like web analytics to me. Like you open up the Google Analytics dashboard and it's super impressive. And it's like, oh my God, all these graphs, it's just beautiful. But finding the value with them is definitely difficult. And the HEART framework is just one example of a strategy that we use to try to make sure that it's connected to some kind of goal and it's being considered within the larger scope of multiple metrics.
Thank you, Rob. Palmas.